Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Pierre has a theory that technical analysis precedes fundamental analysis. And sometimes I think he's right. I don't know, I've never actually gone into it to any great depth, but sometimes I think he is correct. And what has been happening of late is really strange because there's so much has been happening that kind of defies logic from a fundamental point of view. So this, for example, is gold. And I've shown you this many times before. Gold had a multiple quadruple top, which was here. So gold had the first surge after COVID. And then the second time price came up in March 22. Well, surprise, surprise, it bounced to the pip off the same area because those folks who bought down here were taking profit and it ran out of buyers up here. Once the retail rookies had piled in at the top, then it dropped because it was technically, it was perfectly logical. Happened a third time, fourth time it happened because there was some kind of event, mixed news I've heard, and one was something to do with an incident in the Gulf with the Houthis, and another one was something to do with, I think, a tsunami or something. But this, the other day, I did not expect. Now, I did share with you many times before, I said that I was a buyer of gold. This was in February a year ago. I said I would be a buyer of gold at 1820. And this was after I had sold my gold when moving to from Spain to Portugal. I had to pay the tax. And it set off without me. And I said in one of these sessions, if you go back, the cynics amongst you can go back all the way back there. I spoke about this would be where I would buy. And it came down to 1808. So that wasn't a bad guess. And then when it went up again, what did it do at the top? It rejected at the top. And at that point, you either sell your gold or you hedge it using using an ETF. And then when it came back down again, I again repeated as it was dropping, I would be a buyer again at 1820. And this time it came down to 1810. So these were technically solid reasons. These made perfect sense. Quadruple top, multiple top, buyers running out of steam, buyers from lower down taking profit. This is strange because I'd said to folks before, we needed a catalyst for price to break through here. And yet we didn't really have a specific catalyst. I mean, there's a shed load of things going on around the world at the moment, and nobody seems to care. There's even more frightening news yesterday that I read, and I'll share that little pleasurable piece of information with you in a while. But that was a clue. So then at the weekend, I was explaining there are also lots of other clues. So what is the clue? And Ashley, not you. What is the clue here on the NASDAQ that it was due a reversal or at the very least, a pullback? Somebody tell me. Jay-Z says somebody only cares about Bitcoin. Not sure that I would agree it's pegged to Bitcoin, Jay-Z. Generally, Bitcoin goes and not necessarily in tandem with gold. I see. And Patrick says to host about Apple. Partly, but what technically can you see there? If Pierre was to say to us, look, technically that told me, that screamed at me that was going to drop. Thank you, Suzanne. That is an engulfing candle at the top of a major move at a price. I mean, this is not necessarily technical overruling fundamentals, because this to me makes no sense that we've got up here. As Patrick quite rightly points out, Apple's down. I think Apple's down 14% this year, but you also have the same pattern on Nvidia, even more extreme on Nvidia. And I mean, Nvidia is extreme. It's at 60 plus PE ratio. It's all about AI and future earnings, etc., etc. But that was a big, if you were in Nvidia and you were thinking of taking some profit or getting out, that was screaming at you. And that happened the other week with another little one that we took, one I shared with you before called Riot. There we go. And this is a Bitcoin miner. Now, I first shared this with FMP Mob, you lot here, you guys, in November of last year, explained that they were a Bitcoin miner and Bitcoin was going up. And this was the same time, if you recall, I took the MicroStrategies trade. So it set off up and it rejected at the top, and I took most of the profit somewhere in here, and it dropped all the way back down again. Then with the YAF group, I also shared it again at the beginning of February. I said, I am a buyer again. And when it came up, that was the clue to get out. Plus, it was now a triple top, or certainly it was hitting the trend line for a third time. But that was a clue, and look what happened next. Dropped all the way down. Now, I don't normally pay too much attention to candlesticks, but they do seem to be more spookily accurate lately than normal. I only look at half a dozen. I think this is a shadow pattern or something that also signifies. There was a guy years ago, looked like Groucho Marx, used to have a university about candlesticks, and there's 3,000 of them. Well, I can't remember 10 things. So I had no chance. But again, here, I just noticed we've had another one. If this one closes today, this is another one suggested a move down, and that is a reversal candle. I have not bought it this time. And the reason I haven't bought it this time is that they are a Bitcoin miner. They don't make any profit for shareholders, only for themselves. And what is happening with Bitcoin in the coming weeks that would affect a miner? Jay-Z says, I think the stock market is too heated, so all the money just funneling into Bitcoin and gold. Would this be likely? Yeah, well, normally, Jay-Z, the point I'm making, normally people pile into gold when they're scared. So you're looking all the time is where is the big money flowing? And when the markets get nervous and things like a potential war or a terrorist incident or something like that, or after a financial crash, then gold does particularly well. It was just strange that gold set off the other day without apparently having that catalyst. Now that sounds insane because we've got a virtual third world war on the doorstep of Europe at the moment. All America and Europe are all throwing weapons in there and saying, hey, it's not me, we're just sending you stuff to blow the Russians up. But if it's a powder keg that could kick off at any minute, nobody cares. And the same scenario in the Middle East. If the Iran starts, then fireworks and then gold would shoot up and then oil would shoot up. So again, those would be the catalyst, the fundamental catalyst to set the thing off. Whereas technically we're getting clues at the moment that that may be what's going to happen. And so Zoe says halving is coming with Bitcoin. So the miners, and Grant as well. So the miners will only be able to produce half as many Bitcoin as they currently are. So if you have a business where suddenly you can only make half as much as you could last week, then clearly that is going to have a negative impact in the short term, at least. In fact, looking back now, there's all of you, I think, got that one right. So well done to all of you. Nick, Ronan, Jonas, Mark, Ashley, Ben, Adam, and Suzanne, and Grant. So yeah, everybody got that one. Now the other one is Zoe's asked me about Marathon, and this was one that we were in with YIF, and I sent a text yesterday to members to get out, and I was getting out, and I didn't. The reason I was getting out is technically I just didn't like the look of it anymore. They are more profitable than Riot, and their results weren't bad the other week, and yet the price dropped. So I had bought here the first time, and I bought some more here at 22.63. But yesterday I sent a text to YAF folks and said, look, I'm getting out of this. It doesn't feel right. I don't like it anymore. And out, and thank God I did, because it dropped another 8% about an hour after I sent the text. I am watching down here at the minute, 78.6 fib. But I'm not as hot on the idea at the moment, and Bitcoin is on a tear on its own, so I'm probably going to leave that. Now, another thing I did yesterday, technical analysis, is MicroStrategy. So once again, this was the stock that I first showed folks in here back in October in a live training session, and I explained afterwards I had taken 5 times leverage on this, and I had taken my first profit and some stock and the original stake out here, left the balance to run, let it run, it technical there, candlestick reversal, the top of move, and I bought again down here. So I told folks I was buying at 500 and buying again at 465. So I cost averaged in around 480, which means that in the last 4 weeks, this is up. Where did we go? That was up 240% on a blue chip stock in a month, which is nuts. But I said to folks yesterday, I was taking more profit out, and I took the profit out here because I pointed out to them, nothing goes on forever. Nothing goes up in a straight line all the time. It's way overbought. And you've got RSI. I do use RSI for stocks and for metals. I don't use it for Forex anymore, but it was way overbought up here as well as. So I got out, and you'll see here where RSI was overbought previously, and the candlestick there, and it was also when it was overbought in here, just went sideways. So all of these things were clues that we were probably going to see a reaction, a reversal, etc. I also said with Bitcoin yesterday to folks, look, it can't carry on the way that it's doing. But what I did show them is that there were opportunities the other week to buy more. And I will share with you that you will find, and I've explained this to you many times before as well, here at Forex Pro, that the amount of times that you will see Bitcoin retrace and bounce off a major level. Now, there were folks on Twitter saying that it was going to reject and go down to 40,000. And I posted on Twitter saying, I don't think it will this time, because this time it's different, which is always a dangerous phrase in the stock market. Anyway, it came back down to 59 something. And I actually bought some Bitcoin somewhere in here around 60K the other week. I had some spare USDT, and I would never envisage buying Bitcoin at 60K. But hey, I'm well in from before. I'm cost averaged in well below 20K, so I'm fine with it. But it makes sense to me at the moment, and I don't really think of other places to put money. I do have some money in gold, but it doesn't make a fortune in gains. And I do have money that I shared with you before in mining stocks, which have done considerably better. So the gold move the other day was only 4 or 5%, and yet some of the gold stocks I'm in are up 20%. I think one of them was up 35%. And I have explained that to you at length in previous live training sessions. So if you want to understand what I'm doing, go back and have a look through all of those. JA says, technical wise, where the support is likely to make up. Jonas says, if where is technically for MicroStrategy, if it goes back down again, well, it's a heck of a way off, isn't it, Jonas? I mean, the thing is with this now, what you have to do is you have to start moving the fibs up. When you get such an extended move as this, I mean, the best place on earth would be back down around 850, because by that point, the 55 EMA will be here, and that will be 78.6 of the move. It's psychological level's going to be a grand. It's anybody's guess at the moment, Jonas. I mean, the main thing as well for folks to realize, look, it's gone. I did tell you about this in October, and I know some of you in here got involved and did very well out of it, but it has now gone, and we are paid to wait. And I waited months and months and months for gold and for Bitcoin, and I waited a year for Bitcoin. And I started buying Bitcoin back in July last year, which again, I shared with you in a blog post. But it's quite strange, because now I'm getting people, when it was 25 grand after the last crash, telling me, you know, I had people, there was a guy in my local bar, you know, these bloody idiots with Bitcoin, it's all gambling online, they're all clowns. And yesterday I heard him, and he was sat talking to somebody saying, I wish I'd got involved in Bitcoin. I knew it was going to go up. And it's like, hey, put your money where your mouth is. I don't use leverage on any crypto, so no. And I would recommend anybody, do not use leverage. You will get taken out. And the reason you get taken out is because we always get moves like this. And this move on Bitcoin was replicated on loads of other smaller projects, but they were great buying opportunities. And I don't know if Solana was one of them. Solana here. So Solana, prior to the latest move, I had fibbed it to there. And this is what crypto tends to do. It came back down. So this was the original fib level. Well, the original fib level was in here before the spike. And then I've moved the fib up again. So the fib now is to here. 61.8 fib, 55 EMA, down below in an uptrend with horizontal support and resistance and the trend line all going in the same place. That to me was an excellent buying opportunity for Solana, and it is a token that I want to buy more of, and therefore that made perfect sense. Now, if it's gone without you again and you've missed it, you have to start looking around here again. because then you've got 61.8 and then you've got the recent highs here, and the 55 will be coming up behind it. But if not, in general, I don't buy at the tops of anything. I mean, I contradict myself as I did with Bitcoin the other day, but in general, I don't buy anything at the top. I wait for it to come back down, which is why you will see when I do these presentations, I've always got 100 different things I look at, but a lot of it I just flick through. Not interested, not interested. Ah, that looks interesting. So that's what I'm doing all the time. What is my gut view on how long the bull run on crypto is going to last? Well, I'll show you something in a minute, Zoe, and this is to do with the Bitcoin halving and the after effect of the Bitcoin halving. I said a few months ago in a blog post, I thought that Bitcoin would go to 100,000 this year, and I still stand by that. I actually think Bitcoin could go considerably higher now with what's going on. But I still stand by that. I think it would hit 100K this year. Not financial advice as ever, but the reasons now that the ETF coming in, the money from the ETFs has changed the whole ball game. And the big move the other day on Bitcoin was mopped up. This was whales who've been sat on Bitcoin and wallets that haven't moved since 2010. So they bought at $10. They suddenly cashed in, and there were a lot of them. But all of this, the vast majority of it, I think it was $750 million, was mopped up by BlackRock in a day. And then off we go and we resumed again. And the thing is, I have a client who is a partner in a family office in America. And I was talking with him last week, and I've also been researching and looking around, and they reckon the chances of Ethereum getting passed as an ETF are very slim. But what he was telling me is that with a family office, the participants, their clients tend to be quite conservative. So for years, they will not have wanted to touch Bitcoin. But now suddenly, because it's become mainstream and it's easier for them to get involved, and you're not having to mess around with wallets and the risk of sending money around, and it can be quite scary, and it takes a long time, and you've got to be technically very savvy. It's opened the doors to a lot of money. And then you've got other funds who initially were not going to get involved, who now are. The CEO of Vanguard had basically said, Bitcoin over my dead body. So what happened? He got the push and he's leaving. And there are other funds now the same that are all starting to come in. They have compliance issues, they have due diligence issues, but once that's passed, my client was telling me he thinks there's another shed load going to come in. There's a lot more money waiting on the sidelines. And Ashley saying XRP shot up yesterday. It did, yes. So looking through this, I do this every day. And going back to the start of this conversation then about where is the big money flowing, I want to know where the big dogs are. Are they putting money into the dollar? Are they putting money into stocks and crypto? Because this is the contradiction, Jay-Z. You were saying that Bitcoin and gold go together. They don't normally, because Bitcoin normally in the past has been seen as highly speculative. And therefore, when people are willing to take more risk, they will put money into crypto. When they start to get scared and they're not willing to take the risk, then they will put money into treasury bills. And if they get really scared, then they will put money into gold. So this is why this is all over the place at the moment. Now, again, talking about technicals, I was looking at, this is the CBO 10-year Treasury note, and the 10-year Treasury looks as though it may be in an uptrend. And if the interest rate keeps going up on this, that will impact the dollar, which will impact the stock market and impact everything else. And you look at oil, and I don't know if Matt's with us this morning, but another new client of mine who is heavily involved in the oil industry was telling me that fundamentally, there's no reason for oil to be going up at the minute, obviously, unless there is a catalyst of something kicking off, maybe something more to affect oil supply with Russia. I mean, the Russians are selling to the Indians and the Chinese at the moment, but more probable would be if something kicks off in the Gulf. Then oil then could shoot up. And then when it shoots up, you start looking to the left and thinking, well, if it shoots up, where's it going to stop? On its way to 100. And this is where it stopped last time, up around 94, 95, and 97. So again, always be looking left to see if you get into something where you're thinking to get out of it. So we've looked at gold, and at the minute, a retrace is quite probable. I've got alarms set here. I'm not thinking of buying more. In fact, I'm going to move that for after this meeting because I may hedge my gold. This is silver. Silver. Now, things I'm going to show you in a moment. Everything I do, everything is M2. It is just the 55 EMA. It is just the 200 EMA. It is trend line breaks. And then it is looking for probability that if something sets off, where's it probably going to react on a pullback for multiple reasons? And that is silver. So silver took months to get through this level, and it finally shot off the other week, and it went, if you weren't in it already, it went without you. But if you were not in it already and you were thinking to buy, then the area that screams at me now is 23.50, because this area here, all of this in here, so 23.50 to 23.20, this was massive previous support and resistance, held for ages, set off. Now the 55 and the 20 is crossing the 200 on the daily. It's already gone straight through the weekly 55 and you've got 61.8. So this is what I do all the time. I am looking for a breakout and then I wait for the pullback. And the waiting is the hardest bit for many of you. This is Bitcoin we just had a look at and say if it really got down anywhere down here, yes, I would buy some more. At the moment, what I do is I trade smaller tokens, and I take the profit from the smaller tokens and I put them into the bigger ones. So again, I shared with folks last week, I made 350% on Shibu in the last 2 weeks, and I made 200% on Doge. And I explained to YAF members, I take out my first goal always is take out the initial stake and then decide what to do. So with Doge, I already have some Doge from before, and Doge is silly. Most of the things I buy have a real world reason to exist, and they are faster, smarter, cheaper, and they have a real world use. Doge and Shibu don't, but I have them in case Elon Musk decides to accept them. He's getting a license at the moment for Twitter to accept crypto payments. So I wouldn't surprise me at all if he was to accept some of those. But they shot up. So I take the profit from there and then I buy Bitcoin with it. So if I've made 200% profit on Shibu, out of thin air, because now I've got the initial stake back as well, I then buy Bitcoin. In effect, it's cost me nothing. So if you are starting from a small balance and you want to get in, I don't think Bitcoin is going to 10x this year, but some of the smaller ones will 10, 20, 30, 40, 50x. But again, you've got to be careful who you listen to, because there's so much pumping and dumping going on Twitter and on YouTube. And the more I've looked into stuff, and my wife and I have been researching it, most of it, they're just shilling stuff. They are pumping and they are dumping. So be very careful who you follow. And this is MicroStrategy I just explained. Riot, I prefer Marathon over Riot. I don't know. Sometimes it just doesn't feel right, so I've left it. Now, Ashley mentioned this. Again, in a session here, in February, I explained I had bought some more XRP. I explained it was a punt because the more conservative place to buy was in here, break of a trend line, EMAs, etc. But this is all to do with an ongoing case with the SEC. They picked on the wrong token. They have lost 3/4 of the court case, but they're still dragging their heels to try to kill crypto. But I explained this was a punt, i.e., it was basically working on the hope that they would win the court case. Now, that was up 47%. It is now pulling back. Where has it pulled back to? It, at the moment, has pulled back to the previous resistance from before, and that is what it is currently sat on. If I wasn't in it now already, I would be waiting for it to come back down here. ETH, I'm going to talk about Ethereum in a moment. Let's have a look what else we have on here. So other clues, I've just shown you with NVIDIA and the NASDAQ. Another clue, top of the move, S&P the other day, an engulfing candle at the top of a move. US 100, no, that's not doing a great deal. US 30 is consolidating. EU, these are flag patterns here, and I've talked about these in the past. The theory goes with flag patterns that you measure the length of the pole. So that pole there was 16%. And then the theory goes, if it breaks, that will be a 16% move. Well, it's only been a 14%. But spookily, it happens more times than you would think not. I showed this a month ago. This is a flag pattern on the NASDAQ. And I showed that if you measure the pole from here to here, that would be a 35% move on the NASDAQ. And from here to here, we have had a 32%. So not a bad guess. And these flag patterns happen all the time. And this was the euro. This was the euro in 22. And I hosted the live training session on the 3rd of January, 5th of January 2022, and I explained why fundamentally I felt that the euro was going to drop. And I also explained later that I had sold a house property in Spain and I converted my euros into dollars because I thought the euro was going to tank fundamentally, and that's what it did. And it went all the way down to 95, but in truth, I got out at parity, 1 for 1. But I made 12% on that in the year, tax-free, because it was just sat in a currency account. Now, here, if you look, these were flag patterns all the way down here. There was also a trend line in here all the way down, and it kept repeatedly bouncing off the 55 EMA. You could have taken 6 trades on that in the year and made your profit for the year. So, technical, does it happen before fundamental? I think there is a case to be answered, and therefore, whilst you are maybe struggling with Forex at the minute, is be paying attention and understanding more and more what to look for, because everybody in this room can tell after the event, oh, why didn't I buy that? Why didn't I do it? Look at that candlestick. And yet being able to spot it in real time is the art form, and most folks don't see it. And then the marketers are so clever because they say, hey, look, if you had my candlestick pattern, you would have sold here, you would have sold here, you would have made a fortune. Oh, you would have sold here, you would have made a fortune. But you don't see it in real time. And again, in real time, Ashley showed you this the other day. I showed it the other week in TradingView, and you can get a free version of TradingView. You can go back to any time on any chart and you can play it forwards. So if you need to practice at the moment, if we were looking at this, the S&P 500 in real time, tell me, what is it doing at the minute? Where would I be interested to buy looking at that structure? Well, I have a sip of my tea. It depends, Susanna. Susanna says, do you buy Bitcoin straight away with a profit, or are you waiting for a pullback? I mean, ideally, we always want to pull back, but when in a strong bull market, sometimes you just take it. Come on, if this is the S&P, this is the S&P May 23, looking at the market structure there, what would you be looking to do to buy something? Hi, Nick. So Nick says, trending up, look to buy around 40.50. Yes, look. We have structure in here. We look as though we're in an up channel. We could put a trend line in there, but looking at this, it's consolidating, isn't it? So it's in a range. So we start to look for the bottom of the range, which is here, what Nick's talking about, or anywhere in here, because that then would be a breakout, consolidation, and we're looking for a pullback for a continuation move. And I don't know what's going to happen next. So let's have a play and see what does happen next. Right, well, it's gone without us. So if it's gone without us all the way up to the top, we're going to have to wait for it to pull back. Is it going to pull back? Is it going to pull back? Well, that was one of them. If we'd fibbed from here to here, then that could be one. But then again, we now look as though we're going to go in a downtrend. There, I would want to buy there. I could end up looking daft here now because it might just carry on going down. But that would be the main area I would be thinking for a potential buy on this on a pullback. Please go up. Oh, well, a little bit. But now it was clearly then in a down channel. Now it's just broken out of the down channel. Where's it going to go next? But if you get in the habit of doing this and just have a look and see, well, when it consolidates, what would I like to do? This has been a break of a significant area of previous support and resistance. It moved to there. That would be the area you would be thinking of a buy. Okay, so it's a great tool. Just get in the habit and just pick anywhere. Pick a card, any card, randomly. Don't go back to something you know. Just pick anything. I don't look at this one very often. Let's have a look at this. So we go replay. Where's the price gone? I don't know where the price went now. Where's it gone? Right, I buggered that one up. Anyway, you get the drift. Go back and have a play. have a look and get in the habit of trying to spot things in real time rather than after the event. Okay. Sorry, some of the other folks put in a comment. Put on the pullback where it last touched. Yeah, support and resistance. Exactly, Brendan. So it was the same. You got the idea of it. You're just looking all the time. If it sets off, Pierre wrote an article years ago, which, if you know Pierre, he's quite unachieved because he doesn't like to write. But he wrote an article about what, and it's in the start here section, and it's talking about what's going on. And people forget when they watch a chart what's going on. There's an auction going on here. And what's going on is that when people start to buy something, let's say we're buying here. So what's happened here? Price previously has gone up. The market has run out of buyers. You've got some technical clues here that it ran out of buyers last time. So the buyers start to come back down. The banks have got two parts of the currency world. One part of the currency world is that they are trading it, and they might be trading it for half a pip, but they're going in with 50 million. The other part is that the banks sell currency to clients, sometimes up to a year in advance. So they will have said to, if let's imagine this is a currency pair. So they say to their clients, okay, we're willing to sell this currency to you at this price, 34643. So we're willing to. So the bank, the other type of trader, has to buy it cheap. He doesn't want to buy it up here because the bank's going to lose money. So when the price starts to get too expensive for the bank trader because it's getting to the level, he wants it to come down. When it comes down, he then starts to panic. If it gets here, he's hoping it's going to come down here. But here he starts to get involved again because he needs to make a profit from the bank. And then when it starts getting back up here again, he's not interested. And then when we get a run up again, the folks who bought down here are going to take profit to release cash to try to buy lower down. And that is what's happening all of the time. And then the folks that buy here, when it starts to get up here, started to get concerned. So now buyers and sellers are in equilibrium. Price goes too high. And as we just seen with NVIDIA, anybody that's been in NVIDIA that's enjoyed this ride, and I haven't, but anybody that's enjoyed this ride is rightly thinking, crikey, I do not want to lose my profit, which is why I took a chunk out of MicroStrategy yesterday, because apart from anything else, it was creating an imbalance in my stock portfolio, is that it'd gone from maybe being 5% to 10, 12% because of the growth. Okay, right, let's have a look. So I need to whiz through some of this now. So this is, I don't think you guys can hear it, but the song for this one, we're in the money, we're in the money. So what I was saying yesterday to folks in Your Investing Future is, now we're making money, now what's the plan? And this applies to everybody in this room, whether you're in Forex, whether you're in crypto, whether you're in stocks. Just like I've just said with anybody within NVIDIA, you need to have a plan. Because if you just think that it's blind, everything is going to blindly keep going up and up and up, you'll get burned. And if you don't take profit along the way, there are folks sat in this room who bought Bitcoin last time at 60K and didn't take their original stake out, or didn't take the profit out, and they've waited 2 years for it to come back. So now they are understandably twitchy. So my thing would be to say, well, take some, when you see a surge up, take a bit out. And then if it drops, then think to buy some more. But don't just sit on things forever, because when they stop, and when NVIDIA stops, and when the stock market stops and crypto stop, they come down quickly. So that was what I was explaining to them yesterday. And this was what I was saying. It's all this thing about planning. It's the same as Forex. Make a plan in advance. What are you going to do? Look to the left. Look to where price previously rejected, and think about taking profit, and at least take some profit, and or take your initial stake out. Now, this was my analysis on Sunday. Again, talking about using M2 in all markets. And then I went into detail in it here. So again, check that out. If you want to have a look back to all my previous posts on investing and crypto, then go into this blog, my investing analysis. So this was somebody on Twitter. There was a big thing, people saying it was going to go to 40K. And I explained I didn't think so. And I started to buy crypto again last July. And again, I shared that with you. When I said in here, is Bitcoin about to surge again? That's when I started buying, and I was up 86% last year on my crypto. just from what I bought in January of last year. So all of this lot goes back years and years and years. And finally, there is a crypto course in here. And if you don't understand it, then watch this video. This 35-minute video. I had pensioners, I had a gentleman in his 80s watched it and sat and emailed me afterwards and said, now I understand it. So if you haven't time for anything else and you don't understand crypto, watch that. Now, news this week, we have got CPI core today, could rock the market. And remember, it's an hour early because the US clocks have gone forwards. And then tomorrow, Thursday, is PPI as well. So these are big scheduled news events. But there's other things going on. The US banking system is being propped up by the Fed. And the way that they have been doing, it ended yesterday. And what this article, and we'll post a link to this about, is that many economists are warning of another US banking crisis because of what the Fed did. On top of that, we have the triple witching hour. And the triple witching hour is this month is, I think, 2 days' time. And again, if you don't understand what it is, but it's to do with expiration of stock options, and often it creates a lot of volatility on the last day, and it's someday this week, third Friday of March. So third Friday of March is probably this Friday. But double check the date. Then Ethereum. So Ethereum, the silver to Bitcoin's gold. This is Vitali. I can never pronounce his surname. One of our members who was with us in the room passed him on he was walking down the street the other day. Just on his own, randomly walking down the street, multi-billionaire, very, very strange character. But the Den upgrade is scheduled for tomorrow. It is supposed to make the fees lower, which Ethereum fees at the moment are horrendous. I said on Twitter yesterday, I think I am going to sell 50% of my Ethereum and convert it into Bitcoin if we get back to recent all-time highs. And the reason I'm going to do it is the same gentleman, the family office guy I spoke with the other day, was confirming this conversation. The likelihood of the Ethereum ETF getting passed by the SEC in May is less than 50% now. With Bitcoin, Gary Gensler, the head of the SEC, who was a professor at MIT who ran a course on Bitcoin, so he understands crypto inside and out. Then he's gone to join the SEC, and Biden's mob have been trying to get them to kill the crypto world off in general. He actually, ironically, it was a 3-2 vote in favor of the Bitcoin ETF, and his vote carried the motion. But there's a lot of talk. There's a lot of things have gone on in the past with Ethereum, and Bitcoin has no central control ever. Whereas Ethereum, there's things gone on. There's things have gone on with the SEC. Some of the folks who left who gave it their approval. It's not clear. I don't think that they'll kick it out altogether. And I didn't think that the Bitcoin ETF would get passed. So I got that wrong. But I suspect that the current move in Ethereum is all related on the hype of this. And if they kick the can down the road, I could see Ethereum going from 4,500. If we get up to 5,000, a recent high, I could see it going back to $2,000. Then I'd buy more because I think it will get passed eventually. This is about the Bitcoin halving. So if you don't understand it, you don't know what it is, we'll put the link to this in the recording. And this is explaining about the impact of the halving. So when the miners can now only produce half, this has happened 3 or 4 times in the past. And what tends to happen is prior to the halving, there is a surge in the price. Then there is a reflection when the halving happens, and there is a pullback, sometimes severe. And then afterwards, there is a significant surge forward. Now, this time is different because of the ETFs, but this is what happened in 2012. At the time of the halving, the price was $13. The following year's peak was $1,152. Second halving, 2016, it went from 664 to 17,760, following year's peak. The third halving in May 2020, which the founder members of Your Investing Future and I benefited greatly from, the May 2020, at the time of the halving, was 9,734, and we actually bought at 8,000 in May, I think it was, or was that in the February, March? So it was lower than that. The following year, it went up to 67,000. So whilst Bitcoin is on a tear at the moment, It doesn't necessarily, well, it won't continue on a tear all the way because there's going to be pullbacks. But the other thing is you can see that it takes time. And I think the average from memory is 10 months. So once again, very good article. Have a read of this. It is different this time because of the ETF. But this is the post. This is what I put on Twitter yesterday. This is what I shared with YAF folks. I'm going to convert half of my Ethereum if we get back to the all-time highs because I think this is a bubble at the moment. And if they don't get permission, it will plummet. If it does get permission, it will probably double. So I'll be no worse off. And my Bitcoin I will be fine on. And Bitcoin is the one that I feel more confident with. This guy's talking about he's been involved in crypto for years, and he said he's worked with Ethereum and he wants it to be approved. It wasn't. I talked about scary scenarios earlier. This is terrifying. This is a comment I made about a post I read yesterday. So this post was from the guy who invented or helped to invent AI. And he says there is a 1 in 10 chance everybody will be dead from AI in 5 to 20 years. Which is scary, but then again, it's only 10% chance. So, okay. And then it goes down. Elon Musk has predicted 20 to 30% chance that we'll all be dead with AI. And he did actually go to the UK recently. There was a conference held with the Wally, who is currently in charge of the UK government, Sunak. And they all had a little chat. And Elon Musk is saying, look, if we don't control this, the world could end. And I think at the end of it all, there was a promise to spend some money and everybody's gone blindly on with what on about. Now they're talking about AI engineers who've been involved in it. Think there's roughly a 40% chance that AI destroys the world. So nothing to see here, nothing to be scared about. Just carry on doing what you're doing. USD CAD at the minute, I have no idea. Said on Sunday, it's stuck in here until it gets clearly out of here and goes up, or clear out of here goes down. Ignore. So that's one to ignore. Dollar Swissy, it looks as though, well, it never broke the 78.6, looks as though it wants to go down again. But I don't have multiple reasons for the stop, and it's sat on the 55 EMA, no trade. Euro USD, on the other hand, is a potential trade. So I had an order in on Monday for Friday. No, when did I put that? No, I put that on Monday. So here, I said on Sunday, I was looking to short at 110. And even though I wasn't thinking of doing anything on Monday, I looked at this for the daily candle and thought, well, if it got up there, that would be 1.5 times the average daily range. I have the stop up here, which is 70 pips away, and I haven't put the target on because it'll confuse you, but it's just a 1 to 2, so that works. And then I have a buy here. So the buy will be with a 60 pip stop, and then I will put the target up here, up there. If it stays here whilst the news comes out, then I might leave it where it is. I certainly would be, I'm going to watch that. I'm going to watch that because if it stays where it is, it will only do the average daily range up to the moves, but very risky. And if you are going to do it, half your risk. Pound, nah, said on Sunday, needs to get away from here, no trade. Aussie, no trade. Aussie, I noticed that the iron ore price has dropped significantly against for Australia, not good. This was a reversal candle at the top of the move. It's stuck in here, no interest. I want it up or I want it clearly down. Kiwi, I am interested in the Kiwi. I have an order in on the Kiwi here. I've split it into two. I have one part of the order here at 61.40 and the other part here at 61.20. Stop. I prefer it to be below the 78.6 fib, but I've gone for 10 below the whole number. Might revise that. Euro pound, been waiting months, not got there yet. Pound CAD, rejected at the top, didn't take it, not enough reasons for the stop, but certainly down here, 170 to 1, well, it's 170 is where I have the order, 170.10, multiple reasons. If it's going to stop anywhere, I would start to look around 170.60. EURCAD is another one. Remember correlation, you can't take more than one. The areas you'd be watching on this on the way down would be in here and in here. And then I have, this is an A grade. This is if it drops 200 pips, 3 days range, that would be a definite A grade for me. Aussie CAD, again, all correlated this lot, not as clear. CAD Swissy, somebody asked me to look at the other day. I think I actually had an order in here last week. USD yen, said the other week, you're fighting the Bank of Japan up here. It starts to get interesting down here. And 145, I think I said I would be a buyer of the dollar against the yen. Phew. Right. It's time for Ashley now. If anybody has any questions, anything